In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. These are the words that Jews all over the world heard in unison as they celebrate the holiday of Simchat Torah and embarked on the beginning of a new cycle of Torah readings, starting from the book of Genesis. Simchat Torah is a joyful holiday. In fact, if translated word for word, it means rejoicing in the Torah. The holiday is beautiful and celebratory. Many commentaries on the Bible said it is a rare day from all the festivals and holidays in which a Jew does not have to do much except be happy with members of the community, singing, dancing, and expressing love for the Torah and its teachings. All you must do is let go. On Simchat Torah, October 7th of last year, Jews around the world were disturbed by the gruesome news that a tragedy had occurred in the land of Israel. Many remember where they were. It was a 9/11 moment. I was at Anshe Shalom Chabad in Kew Gardens, New York, getting geared up for a night of celebration. Everyone knows that Chabad is the place to be at Simchat Torah. Every year, thousands of young and energized Chabad students assemble from the two command centers, 770 Eastern Parkway and the resting place of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And from there, they walk hours to synagogues across New York City, bringing the party and dropping the house down. I will never forget the energy I felt as I was walking to shul on this day. I was quietly singing and rehearsing Jewish melodies in preparation for the festivities of the night. It was a crescendo of happiness as one of my favorite holidays was finally here. As I walked into my shul, I noticed the rabbi was sitting down in his chair in front of the congregation with his back towards us, barely moving an inch. Thinking he was concentrating on prayer, I did not disturb or greet him. Eventually, many minutes passed by, and I noticed he was still sitting on his chair, barely making any conversation, which is not typical for a Chabad rabbi. I noted this behavior and continued with regular services. After 30 minutes into morning prayer, I noticed a group of congregants huddled around the corner of the sanctuary, all listening attentively as one member of our congregation. As I approached their table, I heard of rocket barrages from Gaza into Israel, and that there were reports of mass civilian and military casualties. Initially, as many of you have probably thought, it was just another cycle of violence being perpetuated by the Palestinian terrorists. However, as the day went on and more news flooded into our congregation about the butchering of civilians, the decapitation of soldiers, the burning of babies, I felt a different energy, that the world was on a cusp of a major historical event that we know as October 7th, the day that marked the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. As I reflect on October 7th a year later, I finally come to realize what was attacked on the day. It was the truth. There has been a silent yet deadly war for centuries through combined schisms and theories that is replacing biblical values with the aim of societal degradation. The world is being turned upside down, and humanity is being turned into a depressed and confused people. Future generations of men and women are being indoctrinated by perverted values through channels such as social media, from wokeism, gender theory, pornography, dissolution of family culture, and the mass marketing of vulgarity and craziness to pop culture. Mysticism and tyranny have flooded our world and replaced the values that we were once taught. This is why the attack on October 7th is really the outbreak and logical endpoint of what happens when there's a fusion reaction from the overturning of biblical values combined with a false reality where lies have been presented as truth. What was attacked on that day? A celebration of truth in the world, which is the Torah, the cornerstone of civilization since the time of creation. Hamas, Iran, and all of Israel's detractors in the media and the world are threatened by the truth, which is the Torah, and the carrier of Torah, which is the Jews. They calculate that the rising degradation of objective morality in the world has reached its highest point, giving them an opportune moment to elevate their Cold War into a hot one, unleashing a battle for the ages. Therefore, I believe the world has reached its climax. War has been declared, and the moral people of the world have been called to gear up and face this pivotal moment in history in a final showdown between truth and lies. So what is the truth? As previously mentioned, I started my speech with the first verse in the Bible, the story of creation. The story of creation discusses how God created the world. the lineage of humanity, and Abraham's covenant with God after faithfully following him to the land of Israel by overcoming multiple tests. Ultimately, it is a source of how the Jewish people became the chosen nation through the triumphs and tribulations of our patriarchs and matriarchs. The Jewish people were given the land of Israel after finding favor in God's eyes. According to Rashi, one of the foremost commentators of the Bible, the book of Genesis was written to provide a response to the non-Jewish nations about the Jewish claim to the land of Israel. He said that, so if the nations of the world say to Israel, "You are bandits, for you conquered the land of the 7 nations," Israel will say to them, "The whole earth belongs to the Holy One. He created it, and He gave it to the one He found proper in His eyes. By His wish He gave it to them, and by His wish He took it from them and gave it to us." Therefore, the negotiation of a so-called two-state solution is a prohibitive act, because the land belongs to God, and He determined the boundaries of the Jewish state and who has rightful ownership. It is time to tell the Palestinians and the rest of the world that there will be no two-state solution in the territories of Gaza or the so-called West Bank, because that is simply not their territory. It belongs to us. If the Palestinians want a state, they can establish one in Jordan. There is already a near majority of them there. By fact, the past 80 years of turmoil in the Middle East was a result of British rule and the creation of states that never historically existed, such as Jordan. This paved the way for the Palestinians to declare sovereignty in our land. The British also established a government for Israel, whose system of governance causes problems to this day, because it is not in accordance with Jewish law as codified by Maimonides. They declared Israel can justify its existence as a people of a history and a religion. Which leads to my next point. Judaism is not a religion. We are a people bound by laws. In the entire 5 books of Moses, you will find Jews described as a holy nation, Al-Kadosh, a chosen people. We cannot allow other nations to separate anti-Zionism from anti-Semitism. You cannot make the case that you are not an anti-Semite if you are against Israel. You're in reality calling for the destruction of the Jewish people. If someone wants more evidence of our claim, look in the Torah. The land of Israel is mentioned more than 1,000 times. So when Israel begins to make a case for its existence in front of the blasphemous organization called the UN, by saying that Israel's history is a result of a pogrom or because it is a democracy, they are hurting our ability to be taken seriously on the world stage. And it eventually results in perpetual violence. The real reason Jews live in the land is because God gave it to us. The Canaanites lived in that territory of what is Israel, then God gave it to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God said that those who will bless Israel will be blessed, and those that will curse Israel will be cursed. It is therefore comforting that for the first time ever, a few months ago, Bibi Netanyahu addressed the UN and mentioned this verse. But now let's put this conflict into a biblical perspective. This is really a war between the tribes of Jacob, Esau, and Ishmael. In the Torah, Esau was a hunter, living by the sword and thriving on victory. Hunters love trophies. When you kill a bear, you don't destroy the evidence, you put it on the wall. So what did Rome do, the descendants of Esau, do when they destroyed Israel? They took our things and put it on display to show their conquest. Esau didn't want to kill the Jews. He wanted to be victorious and take everything they had just to showcase his victory. Without the Jews, there will be no thrill to the hunt, no prize to show for his efforts. This is why Esau's descendants historically have not been genocidal. All they seek is control and power, not the complete eradication of their opponents. I can see the characteristics of Esau and some European and Western powers of today when they look to control Israel by creating it into banana republic. They do it in so many ways, such as propagating their own narratives on why Israel deserves to exist. They say that Israel may exist because it is the only democracy in the Middle East. What would happen if Israel wasn't a democracy? Could Israel still exist? Why have the Jews left it to other nations to dictate the terms of our survival as a state? In addition, like Esau, they use their political and economic dominance to influence Israeli internal and wartime affairs. Israel has bought into the PR campaign of other nations when they use the theory of proportionality in their efforts. The UN on numerous occasions tells Israel that if the enemy shoots 100 rockets, Israel must also shoot 100 rockets. Don't you dare, Israel, shoot one more. They also call for ceasefires by setting numerical values on how many civilians can die. One of the best ones that I heard is that Israel has a right to defend itself if it is attacked. Of course Israel has a right to defend itself. Just as a child on the schoolyard has a right to defend itself. Also, now that you decide that I can defend myself, I will? This is childish. Is this the purpose to win a war, or is it to play a game? When Israel apologizes for harming civilians or shows restraint, Israel gives its enemies an opening, and they take advantage of this weakness and capitalize on the opportunity. The Israeli military is the best in the world, and they shall leave their military doctrine to its generals and brave soldiers. Take, for example, the military achievements accomplished by Israel over the past few months when it relies on its Dahiya military doctrine of disproportionate force. From the decapitation of Hezbollah and Hamas leadership to the pager incident and now targeting in the heart of Iran. Israel must continue this path for it to succeed, and other nations will be deterred from attacking it because bullies target the weak and hesitate when they see strength. And the Middle East only understands strength. On the political front, Israel cannot allow outside election meddling or be solely reliant on other nations for money. Being reliant on billions of dollars of funding puts Israel at a whim of doing the bidding for other nations. What if one day someone such as Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib gets into office? What happens then? We have been reliant for defense and technological capabilities on other nations, and this can be quite dangerous. Israel must start investing money into their own economy and military infrastructure, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs and making it self-sufficient. Bibi Netanyahu, who is by far the greatest prime minister in the state of Israel, was at war with many American administrations who tried to influence his ousting from the 90s, and even now, amid a war, they're trying to get him to go. I thank God for living in a country such as America, a country of freedom and opportunity. And indeed, America is Israel's greatest ally. However, Israel is America's greatest ally. Israel and America must collaborate on using positive influence to bring morality into the world. Jews must also be aware, however, that it can be dangerous to rely on any nation for the Jewish people protection, as their protection comes from God. In addition now to defeating Esau and reliance, Israel must defeat Ishmael, who operates differently. Most Arabs are directly or indirectly the descendants of Ishmael and are good people. They pray 5 times a day, afflict themselves, and have immense faith. In the Bible, Ishmael resented his brother Isaac for being chosen to inherit his father Abraham's throne. The same apprehension is the core belief of many Palestinian Arabs in the present day. They despise the Jews as they falsely believe that God instead chose them to carry out his mission. They are wrong, but they are loud and proud, and a person can respect them because of how passionate they are. I want Jews to have that sort of passion, even greater. Therefore, the conflict between Ishmael and Isaac is really rooted in the question of inheritance. The very existence of Jews threatens Ishmael's claim because it proves that he is not the rightful heir. It is said in the Bible unequivocally that the land belongs to Abraham's descendants, and Isaac's lineage is seen as the legitimate inheritors. For Ishmael, the presence of even a single Jewish child means he is disinherited, which is why it doesn't stop if they have Israel. They want the eradication of every Jewish person in the world. Offering land like the West Bank, Gaza, or Gush Katif does not bring peace. To the Arabs, it's not just about territory. It's about who has the right to inherit the land. When leaders like Arafat rejected the Oslo Accords, it wasn't because the offer wasn't substantial. It was because accepting land from Jews challenged their belief about inheritance. How can someone give them something that in their view is already rightfully theirs? which is why the two-state solution isn't truly desired and only deepens the conflict, as it proves to Palestinians that as Jews we don't fully believe that this land is ours. If this land belongs to us, then it's not ours to give away, because it's meant for all Jews, present and future. Every time Israeli leaders say Israel has a right to defend itself, it falls short of addressing the deeper issue. Of course we have that right, but the real challenge lies in recognizing and asserting that this land is ours. Recently and quite dangerously, many people around the world are now claiming that by having these beliefs, it implies that the Jewish people believe they are superior to others, and as a result they encourage violence in Jewish communities. Let's make this clear. Jewish people are not superior to anyone. Humanity is created in God's image, and God has a vetted interest in His creation. The Jewish people have their purpose in the world by serving God through the 613 commandments, and the Gentiles have their purpose by serving God through the 7 Noahide laws. Others make the argument that they are not religious or believe in God, therefore we're not entitled to use the Torah as a means of justifying the Jewish people's existence. My response is that if a person doesn't know there is a God in the world, and that as a human you are required to serve Him and obey His commandments, then we have to go back to the re-education process. My final point is that anti-Semitism has been around for thousands of years. We faced it in Spain during the exile in 1492, during the bubonic plague in the medieval era, from pogroms, the Holocaust, to modern-day anti-Semitism. Jews are not liked. What will change? There are many Jewish organizations fighting anti-Semitism for decades. How have they moved the needle? Why are Jews still attacked on the New York City subway for wearing a kippah or for wearing an IDF sweater at school? Anti-Semitism is a result of the mysticism and tyranny overtaking the principles that once anchored civilization. October 7th was not just an isolated attack. It was the inevitable explosion in the battle between truth and lies, where values have been overturned and falsehoods are now embraced as reality. How fitting, therefore, did it occur on Simchat Torah, the day we celebrate truth. Hamas, the puppet of Iran, and all of Israel's detractors in the media, they fear the truth. They fear Torah. They sense that the world's moral decline has reached its peak, igniting a war for the ages. But let this be a rallying cry for all those who still stand for the truth. God will protect us, and our Torah argument is the strongest one. War has been declared, and now we are called to fight. There is no retreat, no surrender. Now is the time to stand as warriors and follow the path of our ancestors, such as King David when he defeated Goliath, the Maccabees when they defended Jerusalem, Esther when she saved a generation, Maimonides who studied Torah despite the risk of death, Jewish men who revolted against the Nazis, or the Haganah who risked their lives for the establishment of the Jewish state. Fight for what is right, reclaim the values that have been lost, and face this defining moment in history with courage. We may be a tiny minority, and our enemies may be in the millions or billions, but I will never count out a Jew, as they are born warriors. So be a good Jew who is proud and full of Torah and mitzvahs. Now that we stand at the climax of this conflict, the final showdown between truth and lies, a new age has begun, and we all know that the Jews will rise to the occasion. So rise up, gear up, and fight for God, for children, and the future that Israel holds. Thank you.